Hello everyone, and welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne. So today we're going to make some crepes. They are so easy to prepare. The batter is very simple. You can make them ahead of time, and then you can prepare a nice savory or a sweet filling to go into your delicious crepes. So let's get started in preparing our crepe. We're actually going to make a savory one today. So the first thing you want to do is measure yourself 4 ounces of flour, or just a scant 1 cup. And this is just all-purpose flour, unbleached. And to that, you want to add a little bit of salt. I would say about a 1/4 teaspoon should be plenty for the 1 cup of flour we have here. So let's just grab a little bit of salt. And I have a little ground white pepper here, which I think tastes really nice in a savory crepe. However, it's not necessary. I wouldn't use black because you would see a lot of black specks in the crepe and it might not be so attractive. So that's entirely up to you, but I'm just going to put about 1/8 teaspoon of white pepper. I also love the flavor of nutmeg, so I'm going to put just about 4 gratings of nutmeg. And to that, let's just whisk this and make a little well in the center. And for every cup of flour, you will need 1 1/4 cup of whole milk and 3 large eggs. I'm just going to whisk the 3 eggs first before I add it to the milk. And we will put the milk and the eggs in the center of our bowl and then whisk that together. So here's our 3 eggs, and it's not whisked really well. You just want to get your eggs kind of broken up there. Now you can whisk your whole milk and eggs together. Let's put our milk and eggs right in the center, and we will whisk that together. This is really easy. If I were to do a dessert crepe, if say you wanted to make with all the summer berries that are available, you can pick blueberries and cherries, and oh my goodness, this is a wonderful time to actually make a really nice summer crepe, dessert crepe. So if I were to make a dessert crepe, I would add 1 tablespoon of sugar to the batter and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And that would make an excellent dessert crepe. And now we want to add a little bit of butter, 2 ounces of melted, unsalted butter. So that's 4 tablespoons. And I did make sure that the butter is room temperature after I melted it. You don't want to add the hot butter to the cold milk and eggs because the butter will solidify again. So you want to make sure that your butter is room temperature after you have melted it. I do have a crepe pan here. However, you don't need to use a crepe pan. Growing up, we used to have crepes every Friday, and my mom always used a cast iron frying pan. And there were 7 of us, so she used to have 4 frying pans going all at the same time. I don't know how she did it, but we loved it. Okay, so here we go. I have a clean bowl and just a strainer right here, and I'm just going to pass it through to make sure there are no lumps of flour. If there are, the strainer will catch it. Just set that down. So just pass it through, just using my whisk. So here we go. Here is our beautiful batter. So once you make your crepe batter, just let this rest for about 30 minutes, and that is all set. So once again, we have in here 4 ounces of flour, which is just about a scant 1 cup. We have a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt, a pinch of white pepper, a few dashes of fresh grated nutmeg, 1 1/4 cup of milk, 3 eggs whisked, and then 2 ounces of room temperature melted unsalted butter. And that's it. And if you were to make a dessert crepe, then add 1 tablespoon of sugar and also a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So let's make our filling for the crepes. We're going to make a ricotta cheese and spinach filling, which is just delicious. So I have here 1 pound of whole milk ricotta cheese, and I have it in a bowl in a strainer just to make sure that there isn't any excess milk while we get the rest of the ingredients together. So we'll just leave that there. And to it, we're going to add 2 good heaping tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, 4 ounces of fresh mozzarella. This was an 8-ounce ball, and I grated 4 ounces, half of it. So, and this recipe doubles very easily. So here's our 4 ounces. And because we're adding spinach, I do love the flavor of a little bit of lemon zest in here, but it's not necessary. You don't have to do it. I happen to just really like it. So about a half a lemon or even less than that. Okay, so a little bit of lemon. And by the way, we're going to make this super easy. However, if you want to go a step further, you can saute a shallot on top of the stove with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, along with 1 large clove of garlic, all very finely diced in the olive oil. And then you can, after it comes to room temperature, you can then add it to your cheese, which also makes a very nice filling, but it's not absolutely necessary. And let's see, we have 1 egg here. Let's just break up the egg a little bit into the bowl. And let's talk about the spinach. So for 1 pound of ricotta cheese, you will need about 4 ounces of spinach, I would say, 2 pounds, a half a pound. So about 4 ounces of spinach, and I'm using baby spinach. And I just want to show you how I cook the spinach for this particular dish. Actually, I use this method a lot in preparing spinach. You can definitely blanch your spinach if you want to, but then you always have to really wring it out really well before you go ahead and use it. Make sure that it's nice and dry. So I'm just going to show you a very interesting method. I'm using a dish towel here, but you can just use paper towel too. It doesn't necessarily need to be a dish towel. And I have a plate, and the dish towel is on the bottom, so you could put paper towel on the bottom if you'd rather. And you just take your spinach and you pile it on top, and then you cover it. So if you don't use a dish towel, use paper towel on top, and you microwave it for 2 minutes. And then I'll show you what it looks like. What's really wonderful about microwaving it is that it stays very bright green, and it also is very dry, and it's wonderful to chop, which I have right here. And then, well, I'll show you, we'll take it out. You have to make sure that it's also room temperature. And here I've already chopped it, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in here. And it's nice and dry, so it won't add too much moisture to our filling, which is really good. And of course we have to get our ricotta cheese in here, and we will season it with a little bit of salt, kosher salt, and pepper, and just a touch of nutmeg once again. So let's just get a little bit of nutmeg in here. That was about 12 grinds. And then I would say a half a teaspoon of kosher salt for a pound of ricotta cheese should be more than enough. So let's just grab half a teaspoon of salt in there. So here's our plate. I'll remove the plate. Plate's quite warm, and I can show you the spinach. So here's our dish towel, and if you open it up, you can see the spinach. It's fully cooked, it's nice bright green, and it's dry. And if you want to make sure that it's, I even go one little step further and just take a rolling pin and just gently go over with your rolling pin. So if there is any excess liquid from the spinach, it'll go into your dish towel or your paper towel. So here is our spinach, and it's very quick and easy. It's a nice little method. And then just chop up your spinach and then put it aside to let it cool completely before you go ahead and use it. So one other ingredient would be an herb. You can either use parsley, or here I have some nice basil from the garden, so I'm going to put a little bit of basil. So just chop it up a little bit. And put your basil into your filling. Let's add our Regatta cheese. Seems to be fairly dry. So 1 pound of the cheese. And in another video that I have done in the past, I've made a very nice simple tomato sauce that you could serve with this crepe using 2 cans of good San Marzano tomatoes, or this time of year, if you have a lot of tomatoes coming out of your garden, you can substitute the 2 cans of tomatoes to 5 pounds of fresh tomatoes and make a nice light fresh tomato sauce. Okay, so I have myself all set up here and ready to prepare crepes. And I also need paper towel, which is also good to have on hand. So I just have a tiny little burner here that I'm going to try to use to make our crepes so that you can see it right in front as opposed to behind me. It's important that you have your flame not too high, because if it's too high, the crepes will cook too fast, and they don't take long. After 1 minute, you're going to flip it. 15-20 seconds later, you take it off. So it's very, very quick. And you want to be able to feel the heat in the pan, but not to the point where you can't leave your hand there. So you do want to feel that the pan is hot, and I think this is definitely ready. I have it basically on fairly low. So, and as I said, you might lose the first one, but then after that, I think you'll definitely get the hang of it. And I just use a little bit of Pam. I don't use any other type of oil. This is a non-stick pan. I would say if you don't have a crepe pan and you're going to even use, you know, a larger pan, try to use a non-stick one. I think that the crepes come out a lot better, easier that way. So, and you just rotate your pan. When it gets down to the bottom there, if you have to shake it a little bit, or if you have to add a little bit more batter, that's fine too. Okay, there we go. You let that cook for about a minute, and if you happen to have, I like to use the plastic on the non-stick. You can also use just a regular offset spatula as well. Here I have this little guy, which is what I use, and I usually go around the pan, and then this takes very little time. I would say this is actually ready. So you're just going to move it aside here, pick it up, flip it, let it go for about 15-20 seconds, and that's it, because they're also going to get baked off in the oven. So you're not really looking for any color. By the way, I used to, which was very, very popular, made a delicious lobster crepe at the restaurant. I used to add a tablespoon of chopped chives from our garden into the batter, which made a wonderful flavor into the crepe. And then the filling was lobster, mascarpone, chives, shallot, and a lobster reduction. So this should be done. Flip it out. Should just come, oh, there we go. Okay. And here is our first crepe. As you can see, there's no color. I mean, if you do get some color, it's okay, but you're really looking for absolutely no color here. And you can either use wax paper. We found at the restaurant that we used to like to use paper towel. So just a strip of paper towel in between each one, and then you can just pile them up. So you don't have to squirt this every time. Every 2 or 3 times you can, but I'll just do one quick little spray. Always make sure your pan feels like it's warm enough. I think I have the flame correct. So you always just kind of, check it after the first one to see if you have the flame right, whether you need to pick it up or lower it a little bit. So here we go. The idea is to try to make them thin as opposed to super thick. You want to make them as thin as you possibly can. So here we go. That looks good. And you should, out of this batter, you should get about 14. We used to get about 14 crepes this size, which is, I think this is what, 10 inches. So if you use a larger pan, you'll get less. If you use a smaller pan, you'll get more. So anywhere 14 to 16 crepes, but we used to get about 14 here. So, and you do kind of, your fingertips, it's hot. So some people are very, very sensitive. You might have a little difficult time picking up the crepe, but just do it quickly and you should be fine. So it's very, very easy. Okay, so that should be done. Just lift it up, take it out, and there you can see our beautiful crepe right there. There you go. Got a nice view of it. So let's just do a couple more. Okay, we'll do one more. There we go. I just kind of shake my pan a little bit, but you're just really rotating it is what you're doing. And if you don't get it all, like I have a little space there, just take a little bit of batter and put it in your pan. It's all gonna come together beautifully, so don't worry about it. You just don't want to make them too thick. The idea is to make them thin and delicate. Okay, I think you get the idea of how easy these are to make. And if you do keep your flame at the right temperature. Today, we're going to just take 2 ingredients. Some really good extra virgin olive oil and 2 cups of cherry tomatoes that I just split in half. And we're going to just warm it up very slowly on the heat on the stove. And I will add season it with a little bit of salt, pepper. If you feel that you're in the summer, cherry tomatoes are always so sweet. Everyone often will compare cherry tomatoes in the summertime that they taste like candy, and I would be the first to agree. And normally, I know I don't normally use extra virgin olive oil in a saute pan like this, but I have it on low, and I'm not going to heat this to a smoking point. We're going to just heat up the oil so that we can just do a quick little saute of these cherry tomatoes. And we can add a little bit of fresh basil, and that's what we're going to serve our crepe with. So here we have our 2 crepes. And I have just a pan, and I have a piece of parchment paper, and I just sprayed it with a little bit of Pam just so the crepe does not stick. And then I have another piece with a touch of Pam to put on top, or you can spray it with extra virgin olive oil. And then we will cover it with foil and we'll put it in the oven at 375 degrees and we'll check it in about 15 minutes. And then I can show you how we plated it. What you want to do is just line up the center closest to you with some filling. And you don't want to go all the way to the edge. And you don't want them too thick. Okay. That looks like plenty of filling. There we go. So I'm just going to overlap the top. Hopefully you can see this nicely, and then just roll it and roll it. When you get to the edge, if it seems like you have enough and you want to just cut off that edge, go right ahead. And you can even cut the edges here to make it. And I will just lift this up like so. And why don't I come over so you can get a good look at it. And here is our crepe, filled with the ricotta cheese and spinach. And I'm just going to line it. And then we will do another one. That's getting nice and warm. We'll make, while the crepe is heating up in the oven, that looks like plenty. And then just overlap and then just roll it over. Once again, I'm just gonna cut off that edge and just cut the two ends. There we go. And put it on the pan. I take another piece of parchment with a little bit of the Pam or extra virgin olive oil, and that's so that it doesn't stick, or you really are not looking to get your crepe crisp. You want to keep it nice and soft. That's the idea, but you want this fully cooked. So cover it with some foil. I will set a 15-minute timer and see if it's hot enough, okay? Anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. So use a really good flavorful olive oil, because it's just as much a part of the dish as the tomatoes are. So there we go. And as I said, we're not looking to get this so hot that it starts to smoke. We just want to warm up the oil, which I think it is. The pan's nice and warm. So let's go ahead and put in our tomatoes. And let's season it with a little bit of salt and pepper. And these tomatoes did not come out of our garden, so I think I will put just about a half a teaspoon or a quarter of a teaspoon of sugar, just to make sure that it's, here we'll season it with a little bit of kosher salt. And let's just take a touch of sugar to the tomatoes. Make sure they're nice and sweet. About a half a teaspoon. And you just want to swirl it around. And you just want to cook them for a few minutes until they're just a little bit softened. You can taste them. And that's it. And we're going to serve our crepe with this. Or you can serve it with a really nice tomato sauce. But I thought this would really be nice for the summer. Also, if you have zucchini and squash come out of the garden, if you saute some or grill some, you can serve that also with the crepe. It would be delicious. So let's see how this is doing. This looks good. We don't want to cook it too long. This only takes about 2 minutes, and then we will add our basil. It's nice and low. I think you can see the flame is super low. That looks great. And then we just grab a plate. You want to take it off the hot pan at this point so that, let's throw in a little bit of fresh basil. There we go. And we will serve this. I'll just come around so you can see it. We'll taste them, make sure that they're seasoned properly. There you have it. It smells wonderful. And you do want to put the olive oil that's on the plate also on your plate because there's a lot of flavor there. So in the meantime, I did heat up the tomato sauce that I prepared. So you could always serve it at the table and let people help themselves if they want a little bit of a nice tomato sauce. And you know what's really nice about this sauce? This isn't a tomato sauce that cooks for hours. It cooks for 30 minutes and then it's done. So it's really a very easy sauce to make. So oh, it smells great. Okay. Okay. Pull this off. And it is nice if you do have an offset spatula. This is piping hot. It's beautiful. You have a nice offset spatula to be able to lift it off the tray and put it right onto your plate. If you were doing this as an appetizer, obviously 1 is plenty. If you were doing this as an entree, maybe 3 would be a nice portion. Okay, let's put this aside. And here's our tomato sauce. I think I need a larger spoon. Nice tomatoes. So this is a really nice summery way, a lighter version of serving this in the summertime. And let's just grab a little bit of this wonderful oil that's on our plate here. Make sure that we get a good drizzle of the oil on the plate. Looks great. Okay, and we'll serve this one up as well. And then as far as garnish, if you don't have any edible flowers, and perfect garnish here would be to use your fresh basil. It should always be edible though, whatever you're going to garnish your plate with, make sure it is edible, and something that's in the dish, so to speak. And even if it's an edible flower, or if it, you know, has a peppery note, make sure that it makes sense. Okay, there we go, right inside, and here you go. Oh, this looks really, really, I don't want to tilt it too much, but hopefully you get a nice view. I'll turn it this way so you can see it this way. There you go. Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I hope you'll try. Thanks so much. See you again soon. Bye now.